whakarongo ki te tangi a te korimako. Kōrero flowing out the hooker force. Kaupapa relevant, kaupapa out of bounds, kaupapa exigent, kaupapa paramount. Nā kona whakapiri mai ki te kaupapa tino whakahira whakarongo pi kari mai. Hare mai, o Taringa hare mai. We gotta gather up close everybody. Gather up close everybody. Kani move that body. Kani move that body.
E ngā kākā wahanui, e ngā kākā haitara, e ngā kākā kura, tēnā koutou katoa. Here we are again, broadcasting from Te Ipurau, Te Wānanga o Te Aroa, Praone Gloin, and my good friends, Hariru Roa, Te Puaheiri Snowden, and Pakake Winiata. I forgot to mention too, Pakake Te Choa Timu. Tēnā koe nau mai. We're here in this installment of Taringa, and we're back at Kupu. So a kaupapa to do with Te Reo Māori, even though we have Te Reo Māori right through every podcast. This is going to be focused on something to do with Te Reo Māori. And we thought a good kaupapa would be the umbrella expression, which was composed or thought of by Dr. Wharehuia Moroi, is tū whitia te hopo.
Tū whitia te hopo.
And Pakake can offer a translation.
It's basically feel the fear and do it anyway. It's about transcending or crossing over your fears.
Yeah, ka pai.
I like the, nah, get over it.
Yeah. Pewhia koe, Hairi.
Pick them up.
Tau the mark.
Take them up.
Yeah, and we're applying this saying tū whitia te hopo to learning Te Reo Māori. And we're going to talk about some of the taupā or barriers. He anō te tai kupu Pākehā mo te taupā.
Arai.
Arai.
Challenges.
Yeah, that we've faced and that we as speakers of Te Reo hear from people that are learning Te Reo. So koina tātā te kaupapa kōrero, and I think it's a good kaupapa because I know a lot of you, our listeners, are learning Te Reo Māori or started on your Te Reo journey. Even some of us here are fluent speakers of Te Reo Māori. There are times when we do feel like that. You may think that we don't, but we do. Koina tātā te kaupapa kōrero, and that's also going to be usually we have a kiwaha o te wiki, but that's going to be our kīanga o te wiki, an expression that you can use tū whitia te hopo. Koina tātā te kōrero. So who wants to start the ball rolling on this kaupapa? Well, I'll start. I'm going to start because recently I've been to 2 conferences, symposiums, and there were 2 different speakers in these hui, and their kōrero was on whakamā, so being ashamed to speak Māori or being made to feel whakamā when they speak Te Reo Māori. And their presentations were about how we should be encouraging people, and even if they get it wrong, you shouldn't belittle somebody for getting it wrong. And a lot of it was to do with it's what you say. That's how you say, not what you say. So yeah, I wanted to talk about one of my experiences with whakamā, and I'm not going to mention the person's name. And quite funny because I think Pakeke might share his, and we saw that it's the same person. But years ago, I was brought up, I didn't go to kohanga reo. The reo I heard spoken was from my kuia, my auntie, and my mum when she was having a few wines. So she said she couldn't speak Māori, my mum, but when she had a few wines, rere ana te reo, no sweat. And of course at the pā, or the marae, that's where I was exposed to te reo most. Didn't even know what a kohanga reo was until I got a bit older. But anyway, the school I went to, we used to have a teacher come around, and on this one particular occasion, we had to say how many buttons we had on our shirt. And we've been taught to count in te reo. And we'd say, if you had 3 buttons, you say e toru or e wha or whatever. And if you didn't have any buttons on your shirt, we were told to say just kao. When it got to me, my kao came out as cow.
I'm not laughing.
Well, I can laugh about it now. But even as I talk about this, I can see this boy saying, and as soon as I said it, I knew I'd said it wrong. And I might have been only 7 or 8. I was very young anyway. I was at primary. And, of course, everybody in the class laughed at me. And even the teacher laughed at me.
Karoha.
But the thing was, instead of... And my reaction was very different to some people. So some people might have cowered or ran out crying or whatever. I actually got really, really angry. It made me really, really angry. And I said to myself, nobody's going to laugh at me again.
Except for Hariru.
Yeah, except for Hariru. 30 years later. Yeah, nobody will laugh at me again in regards to Te Reo Māori. So, but I remember feeling whakamā for a bit there and then getting really, really angry. And then I think I channeled that anger and I put my utmost into learning Te Reo. So I know a lot of people, they're very, very whakamā. They've had something happen in their journey of learning Te Reo Māori and it's put them right off altogether. And it could be a person, it could be all sorts of things. So that's an experience I wanted to share with everybody because people will be thinking, praone getting whakamā, praone. Nah. But yeah, I was for a couple of seconds and then it turned into anger.
E hi o tau te rawa.
I think I was about 6, 7. Yeah, I was very, very young. Very, very young. Yeah.
Geez, we might as well have shared the same story because I had a very similar experience soon after we came back from Canada. And we had, of course, couldn't speak any Māori. I think I could sing Haere Mai and do kamate, but that was it. Went for a bit of a trip to the beach on the weekend. Next day, Monday, get asked to get up in front of the class and say what you did on the weekend. So I got up and when I got to my turn, I said, well, me and my family went to O Hope.
Oh, hope.
Oh.
So as far as I was concerned, that's how you said it. O Hope. You know, and didn't know how to speak Māori or anything like that. Well, all the kids started laughing. The teacher was laughing so hard that she actually sort of stumbled off her chair. She was laughing so hard, and very similar to you, you know, I stood there totally humiliated and then swore to myself that one day I'd be able to speak Māori better than all you buggers and you too, you. So
I'll do your eulogy.
And that's sort of, so whenever I get a bit tired and a bit hoha, you know, I just think back to that moment when I was 9, I suppose, I think it was 8 or 9 years old in primary school. And we used to talk about with the huirumaki at home that there were, you know, tērā te maunga, kei te tihi o te maunga nei, ko te reo Māori, e whanga atu ana ki a koe. Engari, kei te take o te maunga nei, e rua nei ngā ana, e taniwha kei ia ana nei, te taniwha tuatahi, tōna ingoa, o whakamā, kei te ana tuarua, tōna taniwha, ko tōna ingoa, ko te māngere. Ne, e tika me patu e rā taniwha e rua, e tai atu koe ki te tihi o te maunga. Yeah, e rā tūmamo kōrero. Yeah.
Can you translate that, please, for our listeners?
Sorry. But just we used to say when we were younger, you know, there was a kaumātua or koroa used to talk about it. There was a mountain. I suppose the mountain is called Te Reo Māori, but at the summit is the prize. But at the base of this mountain, there's 2 caves, which are occupied by 2 taniwha. One's name is embarrassment, fear, shame, whakamā. And the other taniwha's name is mangere, which is laziness, not staying focused. And that in order to reach the summit of that mountain, you need to dispose of those 2 taniwha first.
Whakaro Puahiri, have you encountered those 2 taniwha?
Oh, very.
Did you grapple with
all
them?
the time.
Did you slay
all the time when the dishes need to be done. Only, I can only speak from my own experiences, so in my family, only one native speaker, that was my grandmother. And you'd only hear her speaking when they're conversing with her cousins or, you know, her reanga. It was something we never really listened to a lot. And then I was sent away to boarding school and it was quite a culture shock for me because growing up urban Māori, it wasn't cool. It was cooler to be this and that and everything else but. And then I was sent to boarding school and it was a major shock for me. And I remember, and me and my friends talk about it now, good friends, I couldn't pronounce their Māori names. And so they said, just call me by their Pākehā name. And I had to call them by that. And now I was proud enough to honour them through mihi as I got older, through Te Reo Māori. But it was a massive culture shock. I think I was probably oblivious or ignorant to the shyness at the time because I just went at it because I was like, man, it was like you haven't eaten ice cream and then the first time you eat ice cream, you're 13 years old, you want to eat ice cream every day. That's the type of thing I remember. And really taking to it. And then we had some really good people there at the time, our teachers. They were our first ihopu manoa.
What school?
I was at St. Stephen's and Tūroro Flavel was our principal at the time. We had some people like Pierre Linden, Wiramu Dawati, so some really great male Māori role models at the time. So yeah, that was my introduction into Te Reo Māori, and from then on it's been a up and down journey. And still every now and then I get shy. I get shy only because I want to get it right. And I guess, and this is my personal opinion, my expectations of myself to be better and better all the time.
I think the thing about whakamā too, I don't think you ever fully get past it or over it. I mean, I find even today that I start to stutter in front of Timothy. And sometimes it takes me like 5 minutes to click into what he's saying.
Ai, tēnā koe.
Didn't catch that. It's a bit like, that saying, he taonga nui te wareware. Well, I think too, he taonga nui te whakamai e te hiwa, because it keeps you from getting too full of yourself. When you're speaking, as you were saying, you want to get it right, so you don't think, oh, well, he atu tika mai ko ai e mohe, well, there will be people. And so it's in order not to feel that whakamā, you tread carefully.
Tūwhitia te hopo.
Yeah, tērā, tūwhitia te hopo. And I think those who are learning, who might be listening, who think, oh, when am I ever going to get over this whakamā? Well, you might not. But at the end, it actually ends up being something that helps to drive you to get it right, so you can't be criticised.
Yeah, and I read somewhere that fear is a good indication of what you should do. It should more or less be an encouragement of what you should do. Yes, it's an indication that that's not good to do, but if you get whakamā about something, it's actually your own expectations on yourself. So deal with it. Easier said than done. But instead of being shy about what you haven't achieved, is to look back and go, well, not doing too bad. I think I can keep trudging on you.
Yeah, I agree. I think fear and whakamā is something that you have to work through, and it becomes a process. And you see that with praone and pakake, you both work through that process because you had an end goal that triggered end goal where you just wanted to be there and then laugh at them instead of being laughed at.
Not that I laugh.
But I think, like, for myself, because I grew up in Te Reo Māori, so that was my first language, but I have similar experiences with Reo Pākehā. I mean, I still have memories of looking up at, and might have been about 4 or 5, and looking up at adults speaking to me, and all I can hear is wah, 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 wah. Do you remember the Charlie Brown? It sounded like the Charlie Brown teacher, and I'm just looking at them, and then I just go about my business, and next minute I'm getting a growling because I ended up doing what they were telling me not to do, but I just didn't know. So there was all those sorts of fear that I started experiencing too at a young age. But again, it made me really want to get really good at English. And so growing up, after kura kaupapa, going to a I went to Wikitoria, that has a āhuatanga Māori with it, but it was still a mainstream school, and I just became a bookworm because I wanted to improve my English vocabulary and my sentence structuring in Te Reo Pākehā so that I wouldn't be whakamā to speak. So no matter what the language is, there's always those sorts of barriers that come with it.
On the learning of language, that's one reason why I like travelling to foreign countries, because it reminds me of what people are going through on their te reo journey, and it sort of humbles me in a sense. So the first foreign speaking, well, they're not foreign, it's foreign to us, but that's their reo. So I guess I'm the foreigner. We went to France, and it was the first country I'd been to. Oh no, Tahiti was the same, but there was more English-speaking people in Tahiti. When we went to France, Nahuia learnt some French, but I didn't. But I had learnt some little bit of Italian for when we went to Italy. But anyway, when we were in France, it started raining. And because Nahuia, whenever we went in a shop, I'd get her to ask for what we wanted, because she'd learnt how to say it, and she learnt some phrases and stuff. And we were walking down the street, and it started pouring with rain. And plenty of the shops over there sell these little umbrellas. So I said, haere ki te tiki hamarere, go in there and get us an umbrella. And she said, no, me haere koe, because I hadn't tried any of my French yet. And she wouldn't, she refused. And for us to get to A to B, we were walking, we needed an umbrella. So I was like, right, we're in the street. And I knew what I had to say, but I had to get her to say it back to me again. And I was repeating it. And I was like, yeah, I'm all good. And then I went into the shop, saw the lady, and I just froze. And then I went to say it, and I don't know even what came out. But the lady smiled, and I could see this acknowledgement on her face that she was happy that I gave it a go.
Yeah.
Of whatever language came out of my mouth. God knows what I said to her. And she says to me, "You like an umbrella?" I thought, oh man, that's what people go through when they're learning te reo. They might learn this one sentence, and it gets to the time to try it out, and you just freeze, And it's been a couple of times I've told that story.
Yeah, I've always wanted to learn another language because even with English, that was still absorbed. I didn't learn it formally. As a kaiako reo Māori, it's important to understand how it is learning a second language. So, yeah, that would have been interesting.
Yeah.
How was your reo Pākehā absorbed? Just TV and...
TV, friends, whānau,
Yeah.
because outside of my immediate family
Yeah.
was reo Pākehā.
So the
but
immersion was enough? Only because I asked this from a point of view where people have their insecurities about sending their kids through kohanga and kura kaupapa. We may be veering off about it. And I'm of the idea that it's immersed enough.
Yeah.
Te Reo Pākehā.
It
Their
is.
favourite songs might be, their favourite movies will be, hopefully not by the time ours go, but
Yeah.
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 When we did the Te Reo Māori claim to the tribunal, there was lots of evidence there that said that literally today you cannot reach adulthood in New Zealand without learning English.
Yeah.
It is
Yeah.
not possible. Yeah, I mean, a lot of having gone through kohanga with our kids and setting up our kura and otaki, you're constantly dealing with that issue of parents. So there are two kura Māori, kura iwi and kura kaupapa and otaki. And between them, they have about 250 kids. And the college in Otaki has 450 Māori kids. So despite all of that happening in Otaki, you still have the majority of Māori parents sending their kids to the college. And it's about, I'll go back, it's about faith. It's about believing that we actually have the solutions to our educational needs. But having said that, one of the things I was worried about when I was the chair of our whānau group at the Kura, Whakatupuranga Ruamana, was some of the, I think, pretty draconian methods that are being used to get the kids to speak Māori.
Right.
And one of the things I was worried about at that time was that our kids haven't had to fight for the reo. So they don't have that natural sort of affinity to want to speak it as much as they can, as much a cultural as political statement, about things.
Yeah.
And what worried me was that the more we kind of, whip and cajole and harass our kids to speak Māori, when they get to be adults and make the decision themselves, are they going to turn their back on it? Because all they associate with speaking te reo is being bullied, pushed, penalised, punished for not speaking it, eh? So I think that's one of the things we have to sort
Be
of...
mindful of.
Yeah. I mean, when you came to our place, Paraone, a couple of years ago, and you and Ngahui were there for a couple of 3 days, that's the most Māori those kids might have spoken in that house, because they recognised that these two had arrived and they can only speak Māori, so they just switched. And what was Te Reo Māori only in the Kura now was extended to our house because Paraone and Ngahui were there. And as soon as you left, boom, back to English again. And it bugged me if I could get them to carry on.
Yeah.
It's cool. I liken that to Kahurangi Maxwell's Masters, Kia ora Kahurangi. She talks about language association, and we have people that we associate with language.
Yeah.
So there's only people where there's an expectation of yourself or them to only speak te reo with. And I like doing that because it challenges me. Like, here comes, karamai a praone, me kōrero Māori. Ko nei te wā ka whakamahi e au tētahi rerenga katahi anō au ka ako. I can try out this new sentence structure.
Was it in her research or somewhere else, or it might have been you, Praone, that had said at one stage that when you meet a new person, whatever language you first speak together is going to be the main language that you tend to converse in.
Yeah.
So he wero pia kia tātou kia reo Māori, te reo tūtahi, te tūtakinga atu ki tētahi atu, especially if they...
Yeah, and it's like you said it with the kohanga kids, that like with my kids, the older kids, when any of their younger cousins, when any of them arrive at home who had kohanga, they just speak Māori to them, eh?
Yeah.
Because they know those kids are stronger in te reo, so they won't speak English, they'll speak Māori to those kids. I think, I need to have more kohanga kids visiting and more Paraone and Ngahuias visiting to get my kids to talk Māori at home.
The other way is to saturate the internet with real Māori, and then all our kids will just absorb it, because my kids don't even watch TV, they just YouTube all the way, and they've learned how to read and write in English through that, not even through kura or anything, because they don't learn how to add kura anyway. But they can read and write. My 7-year-old can read and write English better than her Māori, and yet she goes to a kura kaupapa Māori through the internet, through her iPad. Kia ora aparo.
Kia ora aparo.
Yeah.
So the D Shasha is doing some research for us now, rangahau for us now, on the obstacles or barriers to learning te reo, and is interviewing a lot of our tauira, and whakama is one of the big ones, obviously. But then there are other issues too around attitude. I mean, if you grow up in a house where the attitude was still, why learn te reo Māori? That's not going to put bread and butter on your table. where you had those sort of prevailing attitudes, the diminishing of the status, of Te Reo and stuff like that. And some of the issues around the quality of the kaiako. There's a whole lot of things coming out, so that'll come out later on this year.
Yeah, there's definitely all sorts of layers, isn't there? Whakama's just not one, that's just one layer of it. But contributes to the person feeling like that and to their attitude towards the language.
Yeah. Even speakers of Māori can have, there's all sorts of different layers within different speakers of Reo Māori.
Yeah.
I mean, I think in my observations anyway, growing up and even with myself and my family, speaking Māori was just functional. So there was a time when it didn't even matter whether it was grammatical, but as long as the message was conveyed and whoever I was speaking to was understanding me, which was very rare growing up, it was a little celebration in itself. And so I never focused on whether or not my reo was grammatically correct because it was just about speaking and communicating. And then my older sister Okura and I just noticed that those who are second language speakers are really... What's the word other than anal about?
Pedantic about it.
Pedantic about grammar and whakatakoto and the right kupu for the right context and all that kind of stuff. So,
I totally get that because I'd speak to, say, my friends that are native speakers or my kaumātua and kuia back home or the locals. They have a funny attitude towards that as well. I noticed was they were like, I heard the analogy, I'm just a bird, I've just learned to fly. And they're like, this flying thing's no thing to me. I've been flying ever since I come out the egg. So they have a different attitude towards.
Yeah.
For our listeners, what are some tips to help, other than just encourage them to, what are some tips or some...
Immerse yourself in as much as you can, and it's not going to be everywhere, so you have to find it. Listen to, I like listening to interviews, wakahuia interviews, and when they get a chance to see subtitles and you look at it and try and dissect it all, like, okay, how did he say that, or how did she say this? But finding whatever you can and not relying on it, because it's not going to come easy. Nothing ever does. And just enjoy it mostly. No, don't be too hard on yourself, but give yourself standards.
Yeah, I think that's a good one. Don't be too hard on yourself.
Don't be too hard.
Because we are our
worst enemies.
Worst critics.
Yeah. Because I wonder too, like for those people who are on a bit of a journey of self-discovery, learning Te Reo was more about their identity and finding that. So there's a whole lot of different layers there. But I think in that sense too, you really need to think about what it is that you... or who it is maybe that you think you're going to be when you are a Māori speaker, because unless you sort of figure that out, you may not ever hit the mark that you're aiming for.
Or you might not find it, especially how they talk about reclaiming. Some people want to reclaim it. And we interviewed Jenny May Coffin about her reo journey when we did our Papa Reo program interviews, our home-based programs, Papa Reo.
We taught her.
Yeah. Taught by Praone and Pakaku. And she spoke of her struggles, but how she saw non-Māori learners pick it up real well because they don't have a gripe or a history about it. And so to them it was just a language and they were really enjoying it. So it'd be really cool if you could let that nowhere go and learn it. Easier said than done, but
I think one of the things too is that now there is so many avenues for learning Te Reo, that you can come to Te Wānanga o Aotearoa and learn Te Reo Māori and take it right through to panekiretanga.
Absolutely.
If you wanted to do that. Te Atarangi, there's lots of online programs now for learning Te Reo. You just have to fiti that hopo.
Fitty that hopo. You heard it here.
Jump in there, and then I think once you're in there, then I think enjoying it is try to enjoy it and find a way to learn vocab. A way that works for you. I always use flashcards to learn vocab. Te Reo on one side, the English translation on the other, shuffling them, English to Māori, Māori to English. You can take 10 cards in the morning and learn it during the day while you're waiting for the bus or waiting for that call or whatever. You could probably teach, 80% of the structures of the reo in a weekend noho. But they're of absolutely no use to you if you don't have the vocab to utilise them. So, and my understanding is you need to have a minimum of 3,500, and Hari, you can correct me if I'm wrong here, but a minimum of 3,500 words in a language to be fluent. Minimum 3,500.
As soon as you said that, I started counting in my head.
I want to retract that and can't learn the comment.
And so you just find a way to learn those vocab because, I mean, just as Hariru was saying before, sometimes just, sort of saying, ngenge, that sends enough of a signal now to everyone here, I've had enough. I want to have a rest or something. And then you start using that word and the different structures and you're away. Because you need the words. You need the kupu.
Whakaaro hariru, hei whakakipakipa I te hunga.
Yeah, well, pānui. To build my English vocab, I just read a lot of novels. Unfortunately, we don't have many in Māori. I think we may have 3.
Not many, no.
Yeah, 3 actual novels. The Bible, the Māori newspapers, Te Aho, and even kids' books. There's heaps of kids' books in Māori, and there's heaps you can learn from those.
There's some, and I'm like,
and there's no shame in reading. There's no shame in reading kids' books.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
And just read them to your kids, which would be even better.
I read them, and my daughter's been asleep at an hour, and I'm going, oh, gee.
Definitely, you need to surround yourself with positive people.
Yeah.
As one I'd like to put out there. So if you're learning Te Reo Māori, it's very hard if you haven't got anybody to use your Te Reo Māori with. You need to practice your reo. And if you're not exposing yourself to enough situations where you can use Te Reo, when you get to that time, because you haven't used the reo, you may have written it, you may have read it, you may know the grammar, but getting it to come out of the mind and out of the mouth is 2 different things, and the flow of the language and all those sorts of things. Surround yourself with speakers and those that are willing to engage with you. And just while I'm speaking about that, I just want to bring up quickly, Aoife Finn that we brought over from Ireland, who learned Te Reo Māori by herself, watching stuff on the internet off Māori TV. And she was very, very good at writing, and Aoife might even be listening to this. Kia ora, Aoife, ngā mihi nui kia koe. And she was very good at writing te reo. But when it came to speaking, because she hadn't conversed with anybody, that's where she sort of, I whakamai, mai, she got nervous. And then, of course, we brought her over here. And then recently we went to Ireland, and I said to Nahui, I went, right, I'm going to be harder on Aoife. I'm not going to give her so much time to process what I'm saying, and I'm just going to, talk to her how I'd speak to one of us, I roto I Te Reo Māori. Yeah, and the poor thing's like, as I'm speaking to her, and I'm like, come on, Aoife, ko tai tau kia kaha koe. And now he's like, oh, geez, you're hard on that. But it sort of like gave her a bit more of a, but that's what she did. I mean, she chucked herself in a group of Panekiritanga graduates. She came around with us for a few days, and everybody's speaking Māori to her. So you got to surround yourself with positive people that are going to engage with you and they're going to help you. You know that there's some negative people out there. Don't go to those people. Don't be with those people. But there'll come to a time when you'll be confident enough, or, you'll have the attitude of, I don't care what you say. I know I'm getting it wrong, but you'll get to that point. But it's not going to, things like that don't happen overnight. Yeah.
Do we want to add all hamuti to our kiwaha list?
Might be a good one for our listeners.
Yeah, or hamuti. Yes, maybe we leave that there for you to rangahau. Yep, so definitely immerse yourself. Vocab is a big one. Te pānui, surrounding yourself with the right people. Those are all ways to uplift not only your attitude towards the reo, but your attitude towards yourself. Yeah. And self-belief. Yep. So, koena e tehi kōrero. E kōrero anō.
Enroll in te wānanga o Aotearoa, Te Reo Māori.
Tika.
Absolutely. I mean, so many programs within Te Wānanga o Aotearoa, from right down from level 1 right up to level, I don't even know what that level is, that o ngā rangi tūhaha, te panekiritanga, amo te reo. I just want to touch on the grammar thing that Hariru sort of spoke about. There was a time when I was very, very, not strict, but really used to get to me when I used to hear people. And it wasn't so much the learners. What gets me is speakers that have been speaking for a long time, and they should know. Yep. And I think that's 2 different kettles of fish. So someone that's learning, I haven't got a problem with them, that they make a hapa here and there. But someone who's been speaking Te Reo Māori for a very, very long time, I think should be a role model to those that are learning. They're role modelling the language, so we're all role models. And that's when I do get a bit hoha when I hear people, but at the same time, someone who's into grammar, that's another kettle of fish.
They're another person, man.
Yeah.
The grammar kings, man.
Grammar is really a science.
Yeah.
Apparently, if you're into grammar, you're good at maths. Well, I'm not good at maths. You know, when I teach, people ask me, they'll say, how come that's like that? And I go, because it is.
Yeah.
E te mea tika.
Yeah.
Ko Te Reo Māori tēnei.
Yeah.
Koe nā taku whakautu, but, you know, not everyone's a linguist, I guess is what I'm trying to say. But definitely make the effort to speak quality language. And even when people say to me, well, my kuia didn't speak like that, and I go, well, we didn't speak like how we speak now when we're in Hawaii.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or 100
yeah.
or 200
Neither
years
was
ago.
our English.
Yeah.
So you know, don't get too hung up on the grammar, but you need to learn kia nei te tua papa o te reo.
Yeah.
And the foundation of the language that will be there to guide you. Yeah, and will form a strong foundation for your whare, kōrero to stand on.
Yeah, and if you have a strong foundation and a good command of the language, then you can experiment with it.
Yeah.
And you can do those sorts of things. But yeah, those of us who have been speaking all our lives and still get our grammar wrong are being mangere.
Yeah.
Being mangere.
Yeah, and I think it's important too to start expanding. Like, this is me expanding so you can express yourself more elaborately. So yeah, trying new sentence structures, especially the ones that I fear from, I just take them on, tu whitia te hopo. You get reminded, they might not, it's not like that, then you go away, learn it again. Yeah. It's like a tool, we keep sharpening it.
Yeah, it gets blunt.
Definitely. Or rusty.
Yeah.
Or cobwebs.
Do you think there's such a thing as, you know, we've just been talking about people who've been talking Māori for a long time, or even native speakers, you know, who might have some grammatical, I would say issues, not necessarily errors, but issues. I mean, you know, you hear that, go to Panekiratanga and you hear me kōrero tia te reo is not a grammatically correct phrase, but you'll hear that a lot in Taranaki, the me and the use of the passive. So I think there's some issues, perhaps. And sometimes I do think that, you know, there is like taia, all right? So at home and I keep maintaining this, you know, you don't have to say ka taia eia te waiata, you know, te kawe, you know, but at home we will say ka taia eia te kawe I te waiata. And that's been there through the generations, right back to Tāmati Ranapiri's writings to George Grey, Governor Grey. So sometimes I do think that with Te Reo, we are entombing it, maybe is the word, or whatever, making it so this are its borders, and nothing else is acceptable. And you listen to native speakers, you know, using phrases that others might say are incorrect, but he kōrero tuku iho tērā, he reo tuku iho tērā. You know, so which is right. So I did say to Timothy, he did argue that, you know, even that structure we're using, it's not correct. But then I hear Te Wharehuia using it that way.
Language is colourful.
Yeah, I look at, say, native speakers and the likes of Wharehuia, Timothy, you know, masters of the language, where they can manipulate it in a way where to the learner it's wrong, and so the learner should learn the right way first before going that far like that.
Oh, definitely. I think Timothy's a mad scientist, and he likes to use these formulas that nobody, you know, I've said that he likes to bamboozle people.
Yeah.
And ka nui te aroha kia koe Timothy. You know, even if you look at Timothy's writings from, say, the 70s up until now, you can see the evolution of his language and in his compositions.
I think we need to also those of us who are anal, and I'm going to use anal now, about correctness of grammar and stuff like that. But sometimes, you know, especially for those who are speakers anyway, it's deliberate. There's sometimes deliberateness in the way a sentence is structured, and it's not actually saying what you're assuming it's saying, but because you assume that, you just think, ko he, it's wrong. But actually, no, this person is saying something else if you actually think about it deeper. And if you knew that person, you would already know that actually, no, they don't mean that. They mean the other meaning. So just think about it before you pass judgment, I suppose. Or don't judge at all,
For any learners and they want to get into reading Te Reo Māori, what are some good ones to start with in terms of authors?
Oh, I like Te Hei Kōkō.
Yeah. Which one? Makorea?
Makorea. I like reading that. And I like reading Nā Kōrero a He Mi Pōtatau. And then there's that compilation Bruce Biggs put together. That's a good resource.
What's that one?
Ngā Tuhinga Reo Māori. It's a collection of stories I roto I Te Reo Māori. Yes, they've got stuff from ngā mahi a ngā tūpuna, and then there's all sorts. And one of my favourites is Ngā Kōrero a Reweti Kohere. Actually, at this conference I went to in Auckland, there was a lot of kōrero about Rewiti Kōrero. He was amazing, but they didn't talk about him much. And he's got a collection of kōrero that he done.
I think Ngā Tai o Rehua is the last novel that Te Hei Kōkō wrote, and that's all right.
And these are fictional stories, or
Yeah.
or
That one is. That
yeah.
particular one is.
Wow.
It's a bit fantasy-like.
Yeah.
I like exposing myself to all sorts of, say, the Pakimaero, the novels, and then reference and New Pepa Māori. Yeah, I think you need to expose yourself to a range of writings.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you get out there, read heaps, watch heaps, listen to heaps. Another one is find your learning style. Obviously, not every teacher's going to cater to that, but you can cater to that yourself when you're doing your homework.
Oh, that's another suggestion, actually. Join a kapahaka group. Join a haka group. You'll be absorbing reo, most definitely, through kapahaka.
Yeah.
And the misconception a lot of people have, I'm not fluent in that to go into a kapahaka group. Well, you'll find that there's a lot of people on the same page as you.
I think ka nui tēnā kōrero. Mana he kōrero anō a koutou, a tātou. So kia kaha kia koutou, and tū whitia te hopo.
Tū whitia te hopo.
Tū whitia te hopo.
Menga.
Hariru, you can pick a song off there. Te tei waiata.
I'm going to go like this. Arohaina Mai.
Here you go, e te iwi Arohaina Mai, composed by Tuini Ngāwai. Koenei tā tātai waiata, mo tēnei wiki. And you think that too when you're learning Te Reo Arohaina Mai. No e mihi ana ki a tātou, e karema I tēnei kōrero a tātou. O tira kia koutou, ai nā kai whakarongo. Te motu o tira o te ao. I've seen that we've got listeners in America and some in Europe and in the UK. So tēnā koe te katoa, e whakarongo maina. That's us for this session. And again, just to finish off with our te kīanga o te wiki, tū whitia te hopo. Tēnā tātou.
Tahuri mai ki au, whakarongo ki te tangi a te kori mako. Kōrero flowing out the hookah force. Kaupapa relevant, kaupapa out of bounds, kaupapa exigent, kaupapa paramount. Nā ko nā whakapiri mai ki te kaupapa tino whakahira hira. Whakarongo pi kari kari mai, hare hare mai. O Taringa hare hare mai. We gotta gather up close everybody, gather up close everybody. Kani move that body, kani move that body.
Taringa. He mea tuku nā te wānanga o Aotearoa. To listen to more episodes, search for us on your podcast app and subscribe. Taringa, whakarongo mai.